Computer.
Do people RSVP?
Yes, people RSVP, they register online. So I went ahead and started the recording. This is our 2018, our first program information session for our school-based family counseling program. And we will be offering another one in November. And so this is our first one. It's about a little after 12. We're waiting for everyone to log on to make sure their mics are working, their videos are working if you choose to use the video option. My name's Dr. Hernandez. I'm one of the faculty and the program coordinator for the program. And we have also, you want to introduce yourself?
And I'm Dr. Carter. I'm also program faculty, and I was the coordinator up until about 4 years ago before Dr. Hernandez took over. And I've been doing this for 28 years. It's really a pleasure to get a chance to meet you all through Zoom, and I look forward to meeting you all personally in the interview process, I hope, in February or March.
We also have Dr. Rivera, who's a part of our faculty who wasn't able to be on this meeting today, but she's also one of the main faculties of our program as well. So it looks like we're getting full. We'll give everyone about 1 more minute. So just again, I shared this earlier, your mute button, if you can, just so that we have a quality video and recording, if you can make sure your mute button is on. And then when we get to our question and answer session, you'll want to unmute your button, and then that's when we'll have a little bit more of a conversation and be able to answer all your questions. It's going to be kind of nice because it looks like we don't have that many people on. In our last sessions, we've had many more, and so it was really difficult to have conversations and answer all your questions. Everything was pretty much done through chat. But if we're able to stay within this amount of people, it looks like we'll be able to have some good discussion and be able to answer all your questions in person instead of in typing. Okay, so, and the video is an option if you like, but when we're asking questions, if you can turn your video on, that way we can see who you are and who we're talking to. It always makes for more meaningful conversation. Okay, so I am going to try to share my screen and see how this works so you can see if you can see the PowerPoint.
Great.
So are you all able to see the PowerPoint, the slides? Okay, good. It looks like I got some thumbs up there. Okay. And Dr. Carter, are you able to see them okay?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can see them fine.
Okay, great. So there is, on your screen, there is a chat button. So if you have any questions or if something's not coming through or if you can't hear or anything like that, feel free to use the chat button. And Dr. Carter and I are going to be going back and forth on the presentation. But if he's speaking, I'll be able to tend to the chat conversation once when he's speaking. Okay, so Dr. Carter, do you want to go ahead and start our session? I'll navigate the slides.
Okay, sure, great. Well, first of all, welcome everyone. It's really a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you, to provide any information or answer any questions you might have. The school-based family counseling program at Cal State LA is kind of unique. It combines both the Masters of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy, along with the Pupil Personnel Services Credential in School Counseling, the PPS, and the Child Welfare and Attendance Authorization, the CWA. It also satisfies the academic requirement, the educational requirement for the Licensed Professional Clinical Counselor license in California, the LPCC, and we're going to go over all of that today. One of the unique aspects of this program is the specific training in multiculturally focused family therapy. And in the first year, our students begin working with clients at the end of the first semester, and they work in a very controlled and safe setting with video cameras in each of the therapy rooms and a licensed faculty member directly observing in real time from the control room. And we work with families in the community, many of them referred for school-related problems. But the emphasis of school-based family counseling is bringing in the families as soon as possible, especially the parents, to be able to help address, first of all, to collaborate, to get the family to collaborate with the school, because the school system and the family system are the two systems that impact a child's life the most. And many times when we bring families in as early as possible, we can help operate and help them use their strengths and provide them information that can help them really be a team player in helping their child learn. It's a multiculturally focused program because not only do we train our students to focus on the worldview of the client versus our own worldview, but also because it includes family. Most cultures really value family, and it's school focused and educational focused, with a real emphasis on improving the students' overall earning power, economic earning power, and also reducing unemployment, because that also helps to reduce engagement in high-risk behaviors such as substance abuse or things like that. So we've been training people in family therapy for over 20 years, and it's really, it's one of the hardest skills to learn in the counseling profession. And it really does require this video technology that allows the supervisor to come into the room and to do the more intense aspects of counseling, the suicide assessments or the child abuse assessments or things like that, while the students are able to kind of both observe and then participate in it. And then it allows us after the sessions to be able to go through what the supervisor was thinking and as they did these assessments. So it's a very safe environment because the students learn the basic counseling skills in the first 10 to 12 weeks of the first semester. And then they start working with families, the parents at first, and then in the second semester with the whole family. So at the end of the first year, our students have more direct experience in family therapy than most licensed professionals, because only about 1/3 of licensed professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, MFTs, and LPCCs, have had any experience working directly with families. So and the other thing is, once you've worked with families, you develop a lot of skills and strengths that you're really not that aware of. But it seems when our students go looking for field work in the second year, which we'll also talk about, they have a great track record of getting the best field work sites because they've had so much practical experience in the first year. And it really is a multicultural focus, that not so much a Eurocentric focus was kind of a focus only on the individual and individual diagnosis. It's really a focus on a strengths-based approach that includes family because they're a big part of children's lives. Within the family counseling experience, though, we also do individual counseling, small group counseling, and couples counseling, because a lot of the work with the families is to help the parents get on the same page. So we have a lot of experience in doing this, and it's resulted in our students not only getting the best fieldwork experiences, but in the last analysis, over 80% of our students get jobs in the field within the first 3 months following graduation. And that's something that is very important to us. Not only what you learn, but also being able to get a job so you can actually make money doing something that you're good at and that you love.
Actually, our last statistics that we ran for the last year was 95% of our students that were actively looking got jobs within 3 months.
And in the field.
Yeah,
and that's really
the last 2 years. So it's a good jump from 80%.
And that's why Dr. Hernandez is the coordinator. She's up on all the latest statistics, which is really important. So yeah, it's I underestimated us. So, but that's really great to hear. So should we? And the faculty. I'm just the luckiest guy I know. We have a popular program, so we have a chance to interview our applicants and get to know them, and to really see the strengths they have, not just academic, but also in their experience, their self-awareness, and their awareness of their own family of origin. We'll talk more about that. I'm also really thankful to be able to work with Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Rivera. They're both graduates of our program, so I actually trained them in the clinic a few years ago. And then they've gone on to really distinguish themselves both in clinical settings as well as, sorry about that, both clinical settings and also in their research work, which is really applicable to the work that we do. And then we have great adjunct faculty, many Professor Barunda, several other professors, and they also have been through the program. So it's really nice to be taught by people who understand what you're going through and can also assist in both mentoring you and advising you and helping you understand that you can get through a graduate program like this one.
And also another thing that you notice is that with all of our main faculty and our main adjunct faculty, we're all licensed clinicians. So we all have our active licenses in marriage and family therapy and are active in the clinically and in the mental health field. So that's always nice as well. So let me see how I can forward this.
Okay.
Trying to slide through.
Okay, so this is a marriage and family graduate program. It's teaching you all the skills of an independent mental health professional. This is very important right now because I'm on the California State Department of Education's Student Mental Health Policy Group. I was appointed 6 years ago, and I go up to Sacramento every 3 months. They fly me up, and it's a group that really monitors and develops and focuses on student mental health in the state of California. And over the last 5 years, there's been a strong emphasis on placing mental health professionals at the school site. And this is really important because, of course, with all the things that are going on in terms of the violence in schools, it's so important to have an understanding of mental health. So traditional school counseling has focused on academics and social, emotional, and other aspects, but has had a lot of focus on the academic advisement. And more schools are looking for counselors, school counselors who have the PPS, the Pupil Personnel Services Credential in School Counseling, and the Child Welfare and Attendance Authorization, because that helps them focus on attendance, which is also a big indicator of school success. But they're looking for mental health professionals who have the skills to evaluate suicidality and child abuse and things like that, and also are able to work within a mental health framework. So our program, our graduates, one of the reasons why they get hired so much is because when you finish the program, you really have the full package. You have the full PPS credential that allows you to work as a grade level counselor, kindergarten through 12th grade. You have the Child Welfare, the Advanced Authorization Child Welfare and Attendance that helps you work in the attendance division. And many of our students get jobs with the Pupil Services and Attendance Division in LA Unified, which is really good. It pays about 10%, probably about 15% more per year than the grade level counselors. It also handles budget cuts better because improving school attendance brings money into the school through the average daily attendance allowance. So schools will still hire attendance counselors because it's bringing money directly back into school, even in budget times of budget crisis. So a lot of our graduates are hired under the PPS or the CWA and work in traditional school settings. We also have a lot of students who work for charter schools that have a smaller teacher-pupil ratio, but also allow you to work more intensely with the students and the families. And we'll talk a lot about that as we go through. And as I said earlier, a major component of the MFT graduate program is the direct clinical training in family therapy with multicultural clients. And again, with a multicultural focus versus kind of the traditional Eurocentric focus, which focuses just on the individual, in group, and individual counseling.
I just wanted to add too that another trend that has been going on in the field, and a lot of reasons in the past why people have kind of stayed away from going into the schools was because, oh, well, I want to focus on getting my MFT hours. I want to get my clinical hours. Then I'll go into the schools. But over the last, some school districts were already on board, but over the last 5 to 6 years, because like Dr. Carter was mentioning, this increased focus on mental health in schools, a lot more school districts now are on board with providing clinical supervision to their counselors, so that they realized that they were losing a lot of counselors because they were going to go get their clinical hours because they wanted to pursue licensure. So now a lot of school districts are now on board with providing clinical supervision to their counselors so that they can make progress towards their career goals and getting licensed. It's to their benefit at the school district for their counselors to be licensed because they're more effective, have more experience. So now it's great because even in school districts, they're able to provide clinical supervision, and you're able to get your hours as you're working and also earning a full salary. So that's also really great for our students.
Right. So, as I've said, this is the focus on the program. The degree is the Master's of Science degree in counseling with the option in marriage family therapy. It also includes the PPS credential in school counseling and the child welfare and attendance authorization. Such important aspects. And, as I said, the two provides you with the clinical skills of a marriage and family therapist and the ability to work with two of the most important sources of influence in a child's family, in a child's life, the family and the school. And you'll work with families, children, and adults from a variety of systems-oriented perspectives and a variety of environments. And the focus is on maximizing the academic and socialization success of the child. So, a lot of times when kids are having problems, emotional problems or problems related to what's going on at home or outside of the school, it really affects their ability to concentrate and to learn. Emotional intensity is one of the biggest obstacles to learning. So the focus of school-based family counseling is to work with the child and the family and the school to create a therapeutic environment for children to be able to focus on learning. And again, that's a really important value for most families. They may not value or understand so much about mental health, but they certainly focus on academics. And so we focus them on the fact of maximizing their children's learning by addressing the emotional barriers that get in the way of concentrating and things like that. We also focus on the school system. So one of the things we train our graduates to do is to be leaders in the schools with a focus on things like social justice, equal access, and a strengths-based approach to discipline and management of children's behavior. So you'll have a number of classes in those areas. And many times our graduates are really seen as kind of the go-to person in the school when there's difficulties. And we also address the mental health needs of teachers, administrators, and other staff in the schools because, as they were saying last 2 months ago in the Student Mental Health Policy Group, hurt people hurt people. So we need to also address the mental health needs of the people, the adults that work with children, because that's important to them. Now, we don't provide therapy, but we do provide kind of a drop-in meeting where we can help find resources, especially through their employee assistance program, so that teachers, administrators, and staff can be sure that they're taking care of themselves so they're better able to take care of children. And then they're really...
Oh, go ahead.
And also there's... Go ahead.
I would just wanted to add on to this because it's the combined option. Well, my research area of focus is dropout prevention, intervention, and recovery. And recent research on, they've been able to identify what are the most effective strategies in working with dropout prevention, intervention, and recovery. And what they found is that one of the top two the effective most interventions when they did this meta-analysis of all of these effective strategies was family engagement. And so this program combining, a marriage and family therapist, somebody that's trained in how to work with families and bringing families into schools, is one of the single most effective interventions used for dropout prevention. And so that's just really great research, and it shows, counselors in schools, the types of things that are going on with kids are so multifaceted that you need to work with the family. The family needs to be brought in to work with the schools, so that way kids can have more success in school. So it's a really great union of the two fields of school counseling, child welfare and attendance, and marriage and family therapy, kind of fully integrated together. So I just want to share that a little bit.
And a lot of times, having worked in the schools for a while, my wife's an elementary school teacher. A lot of times, teachers kind of blame parents and parents blame teachers because they don't really understand each other and usually have difficulty communicating with each other. And our experience in doing this for over 20 years is that teachers really want to help parents, and parents really want to work with the teachers. It's finding a way of getting them involved that makes them feel less defensive and more respected and valued as a participant. And so if you come to our program, you will learn the skills of getting parents in and getting teachers involved in a collaborative team. And it really is a nice thing to be a part of. It takes specific skills that our students have, and really does help to address the needs of the children. There's usually two areas of focus. One is prevention work, and those are usually more large group meetings, and sometimes they're with school staff, with parents, or with children. And that's the focus on getting them information, psychoeducational information, so that they can learn more about the high-risk behaviors of adolescents and the protective factors, the things that protect kids from that. And then in addition to the prevention work, we then do post-vention work, is when a child's already having trouble, and we try to activate the parent school team as soon as possible so that we can both gain information and help to affect change to help the child learn. So there's a prevention and a post-vention approach that you'll learn a lot about if you come to our program. Employment work settings. One of the nice things about our program is it actually gives you 4 job strands. You can work as a school counselor, you can work as an intervention counselor and an attendance counselor in both K through 12 school and district settings. Also, a lot of our students will work in alternative education settings because they have those mental health professional skills. The LA County Office of Education, and that many times involves continuation schools, things like that. And then the juvenile hall and camp school setting, which I had experience in my career, which is really a tremendous opportunity to help change the course of a child's life, a young adult's life, because you're able to both deal with how they feel about themselves and give them some hope and direction in the future. So a lot of our students become, and the other thing that's nice about our program is that sometimes there are budget cuts in the schools, and even sometimes the child welfare and attendance division will have budget cuts. But historically, when there's a cut in the school budget, our students just pretty much seamlessly transition to clinical settings, agencies, mental health agency settings, and things like that, in community-based settings, Department of Mental Health, and other mental health agencies. So, both through the MFT and then the new LPCC license, our students are able to make a difference when they graduate, even if the funding sources change out of the schools. It's also important, a lot of times people's experience with school counseling is not that positive. It seems like a lot of paperwork and not that much interaction with the students. But our graduates are usually get to be known pretty quickly as kind of the crisis counselors because of their training and their experience. And so a lot of times, our students will get the job, but pretty quickly they're known as kind of the go-to person. And so they get more counseling components in their job, just, in what they do versus the academic or paperwork kind of thing. So we are both kind of focusing on a new direction for school counselors. And we'll talk a lot about that. A lot of our students end up doing their shadowing of the counselors and field work with graduates of our program who are pushing and moving towards this multicultural school-based family counseling approach. And it's gaining a lot more, it's gaining a lot of attention, and it's popular because it's been very effective, as indicated by Dr. Hernandez's research.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So the idea that, you can work and be employed by school districts as a K through 12 counselor or through a community-based agency. And so you're employed by the agency, but you're still working in schools, and you're assigned and appointed to either one school or multiple schools. So it's the idea, idea of still doing school focus, but you could be employed by different people. So doing obviously a more mental health capacity, or the combination of school counseling and more of the K-12 capacity. Another thing, because the question is always asked, is can I work in a community college setting? And so we do have a lot of our graduates that have had a particular interest in doing community college counseling. And so with this degree, you're also able to work as a counselor or a sub-counselor in a community college setting as well.
And a lot of times with the community colleges, if you're interested in that, we'll talk more about it in the first year, but we will probably have you focus mostly on high school counseling, because when you work as a high school counselor, you learn the A through G academic requirements to get into 2- and 4-year colleges. So they really like our graduates in terms of that, because they understand the college requirements. They also really like the mental health background, because then they can use our counselors interchangeably between academic and mental health counseling. There's no specific credential for community college or 4-year college counseling. So they're looking at both experience and skill level, and they really like our graduates. Several of our graduates have been hired at Santa Monica City and Pasadena City College, because they can both be used in academic and mental health counseling depending upon what's going on. There also is there's a higher education counseling certificate that you're able to get as well while you're in the program. And it involves a couple of both the classes you're already taking, and then a couple of other classes that are focused specifically on higher ed counseling. And some of our students have done that, and that's helped, but we've had several students who have not done that and have still been hired by community colleges. Okay, the length of the program is between 76 and 80 semester units. I actually think it might be a little less right now, and it takes between 2.5 to 3 years, depending upon the pace of field work. So, in order to complete the program in a timely manner, the program begins once a year in the fall, and students need to take 4 to 5 classes per semester in the first 2 years. And including, and then in the beginning, in the second year, they're able to start doing field work, 15 to 20 hours per week of field work in the second or third year. Some of our students in the second year, you'll be taking 4 classes in addition to field work. So some of our students begin with a little bit of field work in the second year. That's what most people do, and then finish at the end of the first semester in their third year. And some wait and take all their courses in the first 2 years and then focus on their fieldwork in the third year. All the classes are offered in the late afternoon from 4:30 on, and so many of our students continue to work full-time or part-time in the first year or 2 years so that they can continue to operate financially. The important thing is you'd be able to get to class at 4:30, so when classes begin, and of course that you'd be able to do the work. We operate under a cohort approach, so we accept students into groups of 10 to 12 students, and they take the same sequence of classes. The whole group of cohorts, all 24 to 36 students, will have larger classes with like 24 to 36 students, and then the clinical classes have only 10 to 12. So you'll have a chance to, you get a really chance to get close to each other and learn from each other. And also it creates a support network. So our students do study groups. They sometimes carve up the chapters to do summaries and things like that. So it is possible to work part-time to full-time in the first 2 years, even though you do have to focus a lot on your studies and what you're doing. And we'll talk a lot more about that. In the first year, there's many different paths to do that. You do need to take the 4 classes. It's a very structured program, so you need to take the classes when they're offered. The good thing is that as long as you take the classes when they're offered, you're guaranteed enrollment in your classes as long as you pay your fees. So there's kind of a time-certain approach and a predictability to our program. We will tell you if you're accepted in the orientation meeting in April. We'll essentially lay out the sequence of courses for the whole 2.5 years. The only variable being depending on when you want to begin fieldwork and how much fieldwork you want to complete. You do have to complete the graduate program, the complete graduate program within a 7-year period, which is most of our students finish in 2.5 to 3 years. But again, you're coming out, so it's a little bit longer than most MFT or school counseling programs, but you're coming out with the job strands in the full job strands in school counseling of a grade level counselor and an attendance counselor, as well as an MFT and LPCC intern, which is now called an associate. So it's a little bit longer, but it really gives you a lot more job options, and that's one of the reasons why our students get employed so much. Students take the same courses together in the cohort. They usually graduate about the same time, and they really build a professional network. And it's just really neat to see the reunions that people have. Usually at the end of the 3rd year, even though students graduate at different times, at the end of the 3rd year, there's in addition to the formal graduation, there's really a celebration, a graduation party where we get to, not only do they get together, we get to meet all of their families, and it really is like a family. And I feel so fortunate to be able to be a part of it. The greatest strength of our program is our students. We have amazing candidates. I have so much respect for the students. Many of our students are the first people to graduate college in their families. There are people who are both good academically, but also in the area of their own life experience and work experience. And it's a real privilege to get to work with them and be a part of them learning important skills and really getting a job. Cal State LA is one of the top 5 universities in the country in upward mobility. And that's something, in improving people's economic earning power and their employment. And that's something we're really proud of because we understand that's really important, is to get a job in something you love and feel like you're making a difference. So the clinic, love the clinic. The clinic is really the cornerstone of our program because it provides you with really unique clinical skills as an MFT or as an LPCC. And it really provides you with an experience that really no school counseling program has. And very few MFT or LPCC programs or MSW programs have. And that's because the clinic's right there at Cal State LA. And you're able to, you'll take clinical classes. You'll begin in the fall of your first year doing role play counseling, individual counseling with your cohort mates. And that's really a great learning experience, both as a counselor, but as a client. Many of our students we encourage them to use information about their own life, both past or current issues, that allows them to both get the experience as a client, but also a realistic experience as a clinician, as a counselor. And there is a lot of trust in our program. We have all of our students sign a confidentiality agreement, a contract, when they first come in, so that what happens in our program stays in our program, which really allows you to learn a lot about yourself and other people in a really safe and informative setting. The clinic courses 5005 and 5230 are offered on Tuesday and Thursday evenings from 4:30 to about 10 o'clock actually, and then Saturdays from 8 to about 1:55. If you're accepted in the program, we'll ask you to give your preference, and we do our best to meet these preferences. And we'll talk more about that at orientation. And you work in the counseling assessment clinic directly being observed through videotape technology. Video technology, we record your session on flash drives that allows us to both directly observe you and monitor you while you're working with clients, but also allows you then to take that home and to review your work and really provides a tremendous learning experience. Also, as I said earlier, it's a safe setting because you won't be doing any of the crisis intervention in the first year, but you will be in the room observing how it happens. And so, for example, when Dr. Hernandez has to go in and do a suicide assessment or to assess child abuse or something like that, which we do a lot and we very practiced at it and good at it, you'll get a chance to both observe it in real time in the room, but then even if it isn't your case, afterwards the clinic experience usually has an hour of supervision before and after when you see the clients. So in the supervision afterwards, we'll actually pull up the flash drive, show the actual recording, and the professor will actually go through what he or she was thinking about as they made the suicide assessment or the child abuse assessment or something like that. So it's a really safe setting, but very realistic. And beginning in November, you'll start working with families from the community, again, though, in a very supervised and safe setting. And the families are really thankful. We're one of the few Spanish-speaking family clinics who work with families, and we have one of the best attendance rates of any clinic in the LA area, especially with multicultural populations, because we focus so much on the family and on culture. Yeah, and you work in co-therapy, you just get that back last slide. Hey, you're also not in there by yourself, okay? You're working in co-therapy. So we always tell people, one of you might be talking more than the other one, but if either of you are worried, one of you just says, oh, excuse me, let me ask Dr. Carter something, and then they step out of the room and come and talk to us in the control room so we can come in there. So you're not alone, you're in co-therapy, which really provides a unique experience because you're seeing two families each week. So in one family, one of you might work with the parents and do couples counseling while the other one works with the children, doing kind of group counseling within a sibling subsystem. And then with the second client, we flip the roles. So you'll have a chance to do a wide variety of experiences in the clinic throughout the 2 semesters. And then you have the opportunity to begin fieldwork in the second year.
I just wanted to add that, this is often seen by our new students as kind of like one of their main sources of anxiety, thinking like, oh, I'm starting this program and in 10 weeks, I'm going to have 2 families assigned to me. I'm going to be doing real therapy, in 10 weeks. How does that happen? And it's just kind of one of the magics of our program. And in those first 10 weeks, we're working it's a really small group, so 10 to 12. And so you're working with your licensed faculty every week, recording and doing role play counseling. And every week the students are learning a new skill. And it's just so amazing to see the growth of the counselors from their first week when they're kind of so nervous and anxious and going into the counseling rooms to where they are 10 weeks later running. In the first week, they couldn't do a session for 5 minutes. And now we just started week 11 and they're running, 45-minute sessions, 1 hour. They're like, I need more time, and so it's just the growth and the development of the counselor happens so quickly because they're learning individual skills each week. And so I know it may feel kind of worrisome to say, oh, well, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'd be able to counsel families 10 weeks in, but it's a very guided process and a very supported process by your faculty member. And within, 11 to 12 weeks, our counselors are ready. They're ready to be with families. So it's just a great experience, I think, for our students to watch their growth from week to week as they develop in the first year. So.
And it's also, at the beginning, when you do start seeing families, it's very directive at the beginning. So for the first 5 to 8 weeks, we're really telling you what to do. So, you just have to follow the directions. If you get into our program, you will have demonstrated good listening and communication skills in the interview process. And so you just have to follow our directions. Then what's really nice, as Dr. Hernandez said, is then towards the middle and moving towards the end, you have learned so much. You're in the room with the family, even though we're observing you directly, and it becomes a real collaborative process. So you really have a chance to make treatment decisions in, again, a safe setting, but it really allows our students to start to develop independent counseling skills. And working with families is essentially, most people will admit, is one of the hardest avenues of counseling there is, because you're dealing with multiple people, multiple emotions, and the potential for conflict. But we've been doing this for over 20 years, so we're kind of used to, we have techniques and experiences that will help you learn to help people manage those things. So that's why our students do so well in field work, because you both have the experience. And I tell my students, you don't know how much you've learned until you go to field work. And many of them will say, oh, this is, it's a little bump for the first couple weeks getting used to it. But we've had feedback that our students are better prepared for field work than students from USC, UCLA, Pepperdine, and other institutions, and a lot of it is because of the work in the clinic. So sorry to spend so much time in the clinic, but it really is kind of the jewel of our program. And like Dr. Hernandez says, people are anxious and worried because our students care. If you're in our program, you want to be a good counselor. But it's really cool because usually after the first session, the anxiety level just goes way down. You realize you really have been prepared, and that you're able to not just listen, but overall improve children's and families' lives.
So I just want to talk a little bit because we're almost getting to our
Oh, yeah.
17 minutes,
Right.
and I want to leave time also for questions and answers. So just to talk a little bit about fieldwork. Fieldwork generally happens in the second and third years. Students can make that individual decision to begin in the second year, or they can delay their fieldwork to the third year. So it's really up to the student and what's best for their lives and their personal family situations and responsibilities. So when fieldwork does begin, either in the second or third year, this is really an opportunity. We don't do placements. We allow students to select their fieldwork sites because we believe that fieldwork is a bridge to employment. And so generally what students do is they navigate towards their communities of interest of where they eventually want to work in the future. Might be either their community or another community. And so we believe that fieldwork is your opportunity to build those professional networks with employers. And what we do find is that a lot of our students end up getting hired by their districts. A lot of times employers kind of see fieldwork as kind of like on-the-job type of training, on-the-job training. And so they get to give a student a trial run in fieldwork, and then they also get to invest in the student in terms of training and experience. And if they have a great experience with the student, sometimes they don't want to let them go. So they do provide employment opportunities within that school or within that district. So it's great that we actually now have a lot of our graduates that are doing our fieldwork supervision because they've been able to get employed in the various districts and mental health agencies. So what are some of the requirements in terms of fieldwork supervision? There is a weekly academic supervision, a university supervision that's an hour and a half that's held at the university. In addition to whatever site you're at, you will have 1 hour of individual or triadic supervision with your fieldwork site supervisor, or for MFT, a 2-hour group. And so all of that will be explained to you when you start the supervision. It's just to get used to the idea that you will have supervision by your site supervisors at your settings, and then you'll also be supervised by a university faculty member for fieldwork as well.
No, I was going to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that before you start fieldwork, you have to complete the CBEST. So we usually require our students to complete the CBEST in the first year, so that's not an obstacle or a barrier. Once you get to fieldwork, having a certificate of clearance with the CTC, an advancement to candidacy, which happens in the first year. After passing your courses in the first year, we require students to get their own liability insurance, which can be obtained through the university for I think $20 or $25. And then all of our students are also required to attend a placement fair at the end of the first year to get a good understanding of all of our placements that are out there. Go ahead, Dr. Carter.
Sure. And the fieldwork fair is usually in February or March of the first year, and mental health agencies and school districts come to campus, and we have to use one of the biggest rooms in the student union because there's a lot of people there, and they have a chance to meet you directly. You have a chance to meet them and ask them questions it's interesting because we are an MFT program, an MFT training program primarily, and so a lot of our students probably about half of our students get jobs in the schools upon graduation. The other half go directly into mental health agencies. Some people will work in the schools for a couple of years to pay off the student loans while they're gaining hours, and then we'll move into the mental health area. The focus, you will be doing field work both in MFT and in school counseling. And so the only difference, the additional classes to earn the PPS credential, because of the way we've integrated the program, it just takes 3 extra courses and an additional 300 hours of field work. So it allows you a chance to, again, maximize your job strands. And the field of school counseling is becoming more of a mental health profession. So if someone's not interested in the PPS, or really, if you're not interested in school counseling, I can understand that because traditional school counseling has not been very clinically oriented. But it's schools are the place where mental health for children occurs, and a lot of places, they won't go or for child therapy, but they will do mental health work at the school. So more and more, that's why so many mental health agencies are actually contracting with schools to provide mental health services at the school site. And of course, they love it when you have the PPS or the CWA. So many of our students, increasingly, when they graduate our program, like for example, in Huntington Park, we have students who are hired by the Aspire charter public schools. They're hired as a grade level counselor or through the attendance money, and because they have the CWA, but they work in mental health they're really MFT counselors at the school. They have a much smaller pupil student counselor student ratio. So they're they're able to work with families, individuals, and groups, and earn up to 20 to 30 hours a week towards the license. So I think for someone who's not interested in the PPS, I think usually in the first year people learn more about it, especially in their shadowing. But about half of our students, when they finish the program, go into MFT right away and stay in there. But I think having the school experience is really helpful because more and more, if you're going to work with children, you're going to be working with schools, and they appreciate somebody who has experience in the schools. So that's really the most important emphasis of our program is on school-based mental health and learning a wide variety of skills in marriage family therapy.
So in terms of hours, so like Dr. Carter said, you'll be doing hours both in school settings through school counseling. So it's 450 hours that are completed over 2 school levels in school counseling. And then to earn the added authorization in child welfare and attendance, that authorization to your credential allows you to work, like Dr. Carter said, with attendance, with students that are at risk for attendance or chronic absenteeism, but also with specialized populations. For example, homeless students, foster youth students, students that are returning from the juvenile justice or camps. So it really allows you to work with a more at-risk or higher risk population, in addition to just academic or school counseling. So there's 150 hours that are done for the CWA credential. And then you will do 450 hours in clinical mental health settings. So it's a total of about 1,050 hours that are done in field work over the second and or third years.
So for the thesis and comprehensive examinations, you have the option of doing a thesis or a project. And sometimes this helps in terms of preparation for a doctoral program. It is your choice. And with the thesis, you'll have a proposal, the institutional review board, and data collection, and then the data analysis and final presentations. The thesis is more research-based, and the project is more evaluation or designing of a project. Most of our students do the comprehensive exams because they're time certain, because you take them at the end of your second year. And you can also take them at the beginning of the third year. But the comprehensive exams are modeled after the MFT licensing exams and LPC licensing exams. So there's a multiple choice component and there's a case study component. So our students do really well on the state licensing exams because they have had a run through it when they do the comprehensive exams. And like I said, they're time certain. You know that you'll be taking the exams at the end of the second year. If you're interested in a thesis or project, we encourage you to talk to your advisor in the first semester so that you can kind of get moving on that, because it does take sometimes a little bit longer. But it is your choice, and we can talk more about that in the first year. The schedule, like I said, we operate with cohorts. It's a very structured program because both for resource and enrollment management. So you really need to follow the program schedule, which we'll talk about in the orientation meeting, because it guarantees you space in the class. So Our students, there's no worry about getting, as long as you pay your fees on time, you're guaranteed the classes, as long as you take them in the sequence. All the classes are meet in from 4:30 to 7:15 or 7:25 to 10 p.m. We've structured it so that you're here 3 times a week. So you'll usually have 2 of the 2 hour and 45-minute classes per week, and then usually 3 of those, and then a 4th class will be on the same day. So, for example, you would have maybe 2 classes on a Thursday night, and then 1 class on each of the other 2 nights. So that allows people to be home in time for dinner for 2 nights a week, and then there's 1 time a week when you'll be there longer, because you'll be taking 2 classes. And again, those are on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and some Saturday. Also in the first year, the opportunity is to do that on the Saturdays from 8 to 2, so you get 2 classes there on a Saturday. The estimated cost has actually gone up a little bit now. It's about $4,100 per semester. And in the summer, there's usually 2 to 3 classes in the summer because we want to get you out in a timely manner. It runs, usually the summer semester is a 10-week summer semester. So the classes are just a little bit longer, about half an hour longer over the 10 weeks. And the summer tuition is usually around $3,000 or a little bit less than $3,000. So it's a little less than the regular semester. You can complete the program in 5 to 6 semesters. With the summer, about 5 to 6 semesters, including the summer. And some people take a little bit longer. And financial aid's available. It's one of the best deals in the graduate school arena, not just because of the cost, but really because of the quality of the program. The program is growing. We have an average of 150 to 350 applicants for 30 to 36 positions. We had 385 in 2017. We did over 160 interviews. The interviews are 20-minute individual interviews with 2 faculty members, and the focus is on getting to know you, how much you know about the school counseling and MFT professions, your awareness of cultures different from your own and your own culture, awareness of yourself in terms of your strengths and challenges, and some awareness of your family upbringing and your awareness of kind of how that might influence the way you work with families. We want you to be comfortable. People, of course, are nervous, but we want you to work through that nervousness to be present with us in the meeting. So it's just important to listen carefully and answer the questions directly, and people do fine. The GPA is important to get an interview. We have to cut off we can't interview everyone because of the numbers. So usually if you have a 3.0 GPA in your last 60 semester or 90 quarter units, you have a good chance of getting an interview. In the interview, once you get to the interview process, the GPA is only 11% of the decision-making data. So how you operate in the interview and your experience and things like that are going to be much more important than your GPA, but you do need that basic GPA. And one reason is not just to reduce the number of interviews, but also because you have to maintain a 3.0 GPA as a graduate student. So if you don't maintain a 3.0 GPA as a graduate student, you go into academic probation and you have 2 semesters to bring that back up. So we want to make sure that you're going to be successful as a graduate student. So that's an important thing. And the process, there's an online application through the university. What's that called again?
It's through I think it's called Cal State Apply or CSU Apply. Right. So first you do your online application first. That's the university application. Then you get your SIN number, and then there's a secondary application that you do through the Charter College of Education. So first you do the university application, then with that you do the CCOE, Charter College of Education application, and those links are provided on the CCOE website. And then from there, it goes to our application screenings committee. And all the applications are due by January 15th, or if not the 16th. It should be on there on the CCOE website. Did you say something?
it's usually the 15th. I don't know what the calendar year is. Usually it also has Martin Luther King's birthday on there. So, of course, that adds an extra day. But it's really important to do the CSU application first, to allow yourself time, because you do the CSU application, you then get the SIN number, then you do the division application. They're both critical. You need to do both applications. Division application, you're able to use some of the stuff from the division application. You upload letters of recommendation, transcripts, and things like that. This then, and like Dr. Hernandez said, we then screen the applications and set up interviews for February and March with qualified applicants. Again, they're 20-minute individual interviews. We only do in-person interviews, and we do that for two reasons. First of all, we want to be able to kind of feel you in the room, you know, and even with Skype and video, it's different than being in the room. And the other thing is we want you to come to Cal State LA and experience the Cal State LA community, because you're going to be working with the multicultural communities surrounding Cal State Los Angeles. So we want you to know what you're getting yourself into, and want you to understand and get familiar with the campus before you make your decision of whether or not to accept. So we only do in-person applications. If you're out of town, we try to give you as much advance. We usually try to schedule you later in the sequence so you have more time to get a less expensive flight, but it is important to be able to come here in person at the time prescribed. And program acceptance notifications go out in early April, and we have a new student program orientation in May. And like I said, at that time, we'll look over the only prereq to the program is a course in counseling or psychological theories. It can be an upper or lower division course. It needs to have an adequate discussion of theory. So many times it's not just an intro to psychology or an intro to counseling. It might be a specific systems and theories course, or a course in personality theories, because it needs to cover the basic theories of psychology or counseling: Freud, Skinner, Gestalt, Rogers, those major areas of theory. And when you come to the orientation, that's when you can show us you can send it beforehand. If you have a course you think might meet the requirements, and you got a C or better as an undergraduate or a B or better as a graduate, you're welcome to email me, and I can look with the course syllabus as ideal, so I can really check the coverage. Then I can make a ruling on it. Then you save that email for the orientation, you show it to us, and then we know you've satisfied the prerequisite. If you're unable to finish the prerequisite before, you don't have to finish the prerequisite before applying, but you do have to complete it before the fall semester begins. And it is the course Counseling 4500 is offered in the summer. This year, we're actually, the EDSP 4000 class is going to be a required class, because we're going to, because it's an important element of whether you work as an MFT or a school counselor, and it'll be a required class. And also we combine the competencies in behavior management with the special ed. So it's a graduate level course that really also prepares you to understand how behavior is managed in the schools, which again is really important as an MFT, because you're going to be working with families with kids in schools. And the Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports, the PBIS, is a statewide initiative through the State Department of Education, because it's one of the best ways to manage kids' behaviors in a really humane, positive, and multicultural way. We also focus on restorative justice as well.
Dr. Carter, can I just interrupt? It's 1 o'clock. So
Sure.
I just want to quickly go through. So in terms of the main questions for the applications, no GRE is required. No specific major is required. We do require a personal statement for your university application. They also require a university statement. You're welcome to use the same one. So you don't have to do two different university statements. Just upload the same university statement, personal statement for both applications. We do require 2 letters of recommendation, one academic related, so one from a previous academic or professor, one work related, something that really speaks to who you are as a person and as a professional. All of this is done online, so we don't accept anything paper. Everything's uploaded to your application, as well as your GPA and your transcripts. Here we have several links. I'm going to send these all out to you in an email. These are all little tutorial videos to help you and provide some additional support for you to complete the application. Here is the application for the link for the university and for the Charter College of Education. In terms of the interview, Dr. Carter already discussed the interview, but these are some of the desired characteristics that we look for when we are interviewing applicants, and really having a good understanding of what it is that they're getting themselves into, an understanding of our program, some of your interpersonal skills, some levels of awareness, and self-awareness of yourself and your own family and your connection to your own culture, and as well as others that are different from you. And I think
one of the things, real quick, sorry, just real quick, one of the things about getting experience is volunteering in schools or volunteering in a domestic violence shelter or a suicide hotline, because if you can, many times you can volunteer just a few hours a week, but it really gives you a chance to practice the skills and get experience in listening to people who are in trouble. And many times that can lead to a good letter of recommendation if you start early enough. So that that's something we'll be looking at as well in the interviews.
Just to add to that work experience, because we've been over the last few years getting so many applications, something's happening on my computer, getting so applications, we have been looking more and placing a greater emphasis on work and or volunteer experience. And on the application, a lot of times people tend to just leave those items blank. They don't fully complete them in terms of their work histories or their volunteer histories. So make sure that you're spending some good time in adding in all of your work history and all of your volunteer history, because that also has a weight on the application. And like Dr. Carter said, we certainly welcome and volunteer and honor volunteer experience as well. So that might be something, if you don't have much experience right now in the field, you might want to look into, volunteering at a domestic violence shelter or at a suicide hotline, or gaining some training in suicide support. And those are all great ways to be able to get training, and they're always looking for additional help. So here's our contact information. And I just want to, because I know some people are at work and need to log off because of work, but I just want to open it up to allow for some questions and answers. And if you need to log off at this time, that's perfectly fine, but we will stay on to answer some questions and answers, okay? So, and I will be sending everyone out a copy of the PowerPoint and the recording if you need to log off for work purposes. But other than that, then we're going to go ahead and entertain some questions.
And just unclick your unmute yourself, and then ask the question. Go ahead.
So any questions about anything that we shared, or if we left anything out, or if you wanted any clarifications on any of the information? Okay, what was your name?
Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
I have a question regarding the time required in order to complete the program. I see that it's 2.5 to 3 years preferably, and I understand that everyone would like to finish during that time. But my question is, for example, if you fail class, or simply things in life happen that make it difficult to go to class, take 4 or 5 classes in a semester, what happens in that case? Because I've heard about rules in many graduate programs that you technically have 7 years to complete it. So I'm wondering, all that together, how does that work out in the case that any of those things were to happen?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So Jesse, you do have 7 years to complete the degree. However, it's because of the enrollment management, in the first year, you need to take the 4 classes. And if you can't take the 4 classes in both of the semesters, then essentially you drop out of the program, because there's only, in the clinical classes, we can't refill the slot. So, for example, and because we're a public institution, we really do need to make sure people are committed to the program when they accept our offer of acceptance. Because if not, then there's an empty slot for the next 2.5 years in a public university. So we encourage you to talk to us if you have any questions or concerns before acceptance. in the first year, you really have to take the classes because that's when the clinical classes are offered, and we can't put you in the following year. Even if you have a medical issue, there's no spot for you in the following year. Sometimes in the second year, if somebody is having a medical issue or something like that, it might be possible to take fewer classes in the second year because those are almost all lecture courses, and it is possible to put you in cohort. So we have a student that had a strong medical issue here at the beginning of her second year. She had to drop out of this semester. She's able to take some classes next semester, and then because it's just one of her, we're able to fit her in next year into the second year courses she'll be taking in her third year. But in the first year, there's no option for that because we only have those 10 to 12 slots. So if people, it really is a full-time program. The classes are all in the evening, after 4:30 on. And we encourage students to talk, and we do really close advisement, and we're seeing your senior professors every week. So we want you to talk to us if you're having difficulties. We can provide, there is counseling available at the Student Health Center, but also we can talk to you about where you're at. But it is important, this is really not a part-time program, especially in the first year. You have to take the 8 classes in the first year, or else you're essentially out of the program. You're welcome to reapply, but you'll have to start over.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Hi, John.
Hi, how's it going? I just wanted to first say, Dr. Carter, Dr. Hernandez, thank you so much for this session. It was really informative and sounds like a great program to me. I just had a question as far as the letter of recommendations. Is there, I know you said 2, is it possible to send in more, like maybe 3 or 4? Is that possible? Or is it really only 2? Just because I have more professors that I've already asked for letters of rec for other programs.
I believe that, so because the whole system is online now, and there's a specific format, I believe they only allow for 2 letters of recommendation to be uploaded through the letter of recommendation section. But I believe that there is a separate area on the application where you can upload additional items. And so if you have like a copy of a letter of recommendation, you could, add it as a supplement to your application. At least they had that last year. So you can add it as kind of like an attachment.
Okay.
But the 2 main letters of recommendation that are uploaded through the letter of recommendation system, those will be the ones that will be utilized for reviewing and screening your application. The rest will be supplemental.
Okay. Thank you. And then I just had a question. Said that we could use the personal statement for Cal State Apply and for the grad program. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
It is.
Okay.
But be sure you focus on why you want to be a counselor, both your experiences in your life and why you're interested in the mental health field and why you want to be a counselor. Definitely,
because that was actually my question, because I know that they said we won't receive the prompt until after we apply. So is that kind of what the prompt would be as far as?
I think what happens is, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think you apply. You remember you apply to the university first through Cal State Apply. In there's a prompt for personal statement, and when you write that one, you should copy it, because then once you finish the Cal State Apply, they'll give you a CIN number, the student ID number. Then you go and apply on the division link, and then you can upload the same autobiographical statement.
Okay.
I see what you're saying though about the personal statement, the prompt, that if you have to do the apply first and you don't have the prompt yet.
Correct.
That's a good question. So I'm going to ask Bobby in our division office, because I believe that you might be able to access the Hobsons already. You just can't to see what's in there. But I'm also going to try to get a copy of the prompt just in case you're not able to, and I can email that all out to you so that you'll have it.
Okay, great.
Just in case you're not able to get it.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Hi, Patricia. Thank you, Sarah. Hello, thank you. I had a question. It's hard to say. I wrote it down in here. So, if one is not interested in pursuing the PPS or the CWA, because on your website it does show that you can do either or. I mean, is that something that's done through your department, or is that separate?
Well, first of all, historically, you have been able to do the MFT only. Mm-hmm. So you have the option. When we accept students, we accept them all into the combined program, which is the MFT plus the PPS and CWA. And then there has been the option for people to not, to decide they just want to do the MFT only. However, just within the last 2 weeks, we have been told that that we really need to focus on one option, and that will be the combined option. So if you're sure you're not interested in the PPS or CWA, it's probably best not to apply to our program, because those are going to be required classes. Now, it's only 3 extra classes and an extra 300 hours of field work, and it does give you a lot more job strands. But if you're absolutely sure you don't want to be in the schools, that MFT only option appears to, there's a good chance it'll be taken off the table in the next few months. We will know that by, well, it's pretty likely that's what's going to happen. And this is part of the enrollment management and some of the CSU dictum to have shared courses. So, and realistically or practically, over 90% of our students, once they're here, they end up opting for the combined program because it gives them so many more job strands and the ability to work full time, make money while they're doing their hours towards a license. But if you're sure you're not interested in doing that, we have people who come to our program who don't feel like they're going to work in school counseling at all, but they're willing to take the extra classes and field work because they're getting this training in multicultural family therapy. So, but it's likely that we will not have the MFT only option.
Mm.
Okay. Another thing too in the past is that we've had a lot of students that have done the MFT option, and then they want to work, and then they come back years later and they're like, oh, okay, well, I want to add on the PPS now. Or now, I've done clinical, I just realized that I really want to be in schools, or I want summers off now. And so I want to work in schools so I could have summers off with my children. But it used to be the fact that they can come back and add on the extra hours. But now the university no longer allows students to come back and finish the other pieces of the program. So there's just a lot of university changes going on. So that's kind of one of the trajectories we're moving on, is just offering the single program, because really only maybe 1, if 2 students do the MFT only option for that. I have there's a couple of questions in here. I see, Patricia, you asked one about the CBEST. Is the CBEST still required if you're not interested in the PPS and CWA? So that's kind of—
I think that was answered, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Alexandria on here who asked, I'm interested in direct service, but I'm looking for a program with research opportunities. I heard you mention that your faculty does research. Are there opportunities for students to work on faculty research or develop their own research? Dr. Carter, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Part of a job as a professor is that we, in the Cal State system, is teaching is the most important thing, but so is research and scholarly publications. So there are opportunities to work in research. It's more clinically directed research. If you choose to do a thesis, which some of our students do, then you will have a chance to operate and do your own project, your own research. And we had a student come through 2 years ago who really focused on homebound counseling and telecounseling with homebound clients. And he did such a great dissertation. I mean, well, his thesis could have been a dissertation. He's now at UCLA, essentially expanding his thesis into a dissertation. So there's an opportunity to do, there's not a lot of paid opportunities to do research because we don't have as many grants because we have a focus on teaching and clinical service. But the professors can always use extra help. And so we have several students now who are volunteering to work with professors, doing data collection, data analysis, and writing, and also have a chance to have perhaps a co-author in a publication. So there are research opportunities, certainly not like a UCLA or a Tier 1 research institution, but certainly there are opportunities. And we have a fair number of students who go on to doctoral work. There's both an EDD program, doctoral program within the Cal State, within the charter college. And also we have people who've gone on to USC, like Dr. Hernandez, and other universities like Dr. Rivera, Bowling State, Green University. So, you know, and I don't think neither of you did a thesis. You just did the comprehensive exam. You did some, volunteered in research while they were here, and then were able to get into those programs.
And we have another question from Daisy. If you have graduated more than 10 years ago, are you still required to submit an academic reference?
It's best if you can, and it may require you to kind of go back and visit some old professors. If it's something, you know, I think if you don't have an academic reference because of that reason, probably you need to be sure that your GPA is a little bit higher, because we want to make sure that you have the experience of academics. And then, you know, but the clinical and the more clinically oriented or work ones, they should focus on your potential as a counselor. And so that's really important as well. So if it's been more than 10 years and you're unable to get in touch with a professor, we'll only be looking at your grades rather than grades and letter, but that is possible to do that.
Okay, any other questions? We're trying to finish up in about 2 minutes. Any other questions?
I have another question. I mean, your application didn't say that you need to have a bachelor's in psychology or sociology or any of the behavioral sciences. So I just wanted to get to confirm that, or ask, like, if you really don't have any of those undergraduate degrees, how that's viewed.
Yeah, that's actually been one of the hallmarks of our program. We have a really diverse program, both in terms of ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, other things, and this is with our students. But another area of diversity that we really value is the variety of majors. And we have found that, you know, we really want you to have the understanding of counseling and psychological theory, so that's why we have that one prerequisite. But everything else we do when you're here, the most important thing is what kind of person you are, not so much your knowledge of psychological or counseling theories. And the diversity is really great because, you know, you're in there with theater majors, biochem majors, people who have a wide variety of both expertise, but also mindsets, temperament. So I think in the cohort model by being with students who have a variety of majors, and it really adds to the richness of our program. But yeah, there's no need to have an undergraduate degree in any of the helping, you know, you can be a theater major, we have math majors, business majors. The most important thing is that you have looked into counseling and gotten some experience so that you're pretty sure this is what you want to do.
Thank you. I think that,
sure.
I think what your whole idea behind that, I think really does make it a stronger program.
Yeah, that's true.
Any other last questions? Okay, well, if you think of another question after receiving all of this information, and all of you should have received an email from us also with a lot of written information in it. If you think of something, or if you, as you start to do the application, if you have any concerns or any questions, you have our email addresses, so please feel free to email Dr. Carter or myself. And let us know that you participated in the info session and you're coming up with this issue or what question you might have. And we will, we usually respond to our emails right away within at least 24 hours. So let us know, and we'd love to be able to support you. And we look forward to receiving all of your applications by January 15th.
And then hopefully seeing you in the interview process. Yeah. Okay?
Definitely.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.